G'day.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right, Gary?
Absolutely perfect.
Fine. That's all right then. Lighting's not so bad in here today. Right. Okie dokie then. Some of you have been here since 10 to 8. That's like an hour and a half nearly.
That must have been when I put the post up.
Suzanne's here. Hello. Rona's here. Hi, Lindsay and Gary. Cyrus is here. Hello, my darling.
Hi,
Hope you're
Cyrus.
doing well. We're doing fine. Thank you very much. Sarah's here. Hi, guys. Thorax Gargle. Come on, listen to my voice. Hi from snowy Oregon. Dawn's here. Hi, Phoenix friends and family. Soothing Equine. Hello from Ontario. Hello.
Hiya.
Who have we got here? Pia's here from muddy southeast Finland, wishing for snow. Just to let you know, Pia, that my daughters, Georgia and Dasha, who you all know, were in Helsinki just a couple of weeks ago. That's the second time this year that Georgia's already visited Finland, and she loves it so much she wants to move there. Not to the very north, though, just to Helsinki, which is in the south. Dawn says, started Ed on Devil's Claw, so hope it helps. So good luck, and let us know how you get on. Jeanette's here. Jeanette Desire. Hello, hi everyone from sunny northern France. Today, exceptionally, well, I've just come back from a few days in the UK, and there were some sunny days, and other than that, it was miserable and cold and busy. Oh my God, there were cars everywhere. I've forgotten. I'm sure it's got busier, Gary, since we left the UK.
I'm going back in just over a week.
You are? Well, good luck. I'm done. Hi, Therese. Hello from North Sweden. Yesterday we made some snowmen, and today we slide around like bamboo. Oh, I kind of feel a bit jealous. Jeanette says, trimmed Indiana yesterday, all 4 feet. Well done. They are so tough. I'm making all over today. Have just ordered a cordless Proxon mini grinder. We're going to talk about those grinders a little bit later. Uta says, hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Nice to see you all. Hi, Uta, says Jeanette. Ulrika says, hi, all from France. Every joint and muscle in my body is screaming. I know. When you haven't done it for a while, it does the same to us as well. When we haven't done it for a while, it really does.
You're not unique, Jeanette. When we've been sitting at our desk, and then we might sit here for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we have to go out trimming, we too end up really struggling. The body remembers, but then, oh my God, it remembers how to do the work, and it's very efficient until you've finished. And then all of a sudden you stop, and then you need a crane to get you out the car.
And you need to lie down and let your back just go again. It happens. Is what happens. It does what happens. Therese said last live there was a question about Prevocox, which is in the Equiox family. My friend gave it to a horse his last 3 years of his life, and it made a huge difference for him. He was 30 years old. Yeah, there are some very good painkillers nowadays. They recognize the fact that some of them have been, like Butte, have been not good internally for organs, and so they are always looking for better painkillers for our animals and humans, in fact. Lots and lots of people chatting to each other. Sandra's here. Hello, Lee's here. Hello, says Lee.
Watch, pal.
What's the weather like in chat? 5. I'm missing people. 5. Everybody's chatting to each other, so I'm missing who's coming in. 5 Wows. Hi, everyone. Ramira's here. Hi from Switzerland. Lovely to see you. La 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 la.
No, that's hi, Lisa.
Oh, that was Lisa. Oh, yes.
That was Lisa. Yeah.
Carol said hi, everyone from sunny Portugal. Mika's here. Hello, Mika from Germany. It's all going on. You're all having a good old chat. Oh, yeah. Hi, Dawn. On the last live, you asked about arthritis. I mentioned maybe trying a premium quality CBD oil that can really help. Check the internet and give it a go. Yes. And there is a very good supplier in the UK, actually, who grow their own organic.
I can't remember the name. You're looking at me and I'm looking at you. So now we know that we've got this person and we know exactly. No, we've forgotten the name. We shall remember.
I'll ask Laura Bashford because she does know.
Yes.
And
shall I message her?
Yes,
I'll message
maybe.
her.
La 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 la. Quickly. Oh, Blossom Rock Crunch. No, I was reading that as Blossom Rock Crunch.
You were reading it as what?
I'm tired. Made it live from California. Yes. Hi, Camilla. It's good to see you. Susan Hughes is here. Hello from West Wales. Tammy Clayton. I made it while you're working. Jenny Ackerstrom's here. Hello. Long time no see. Yes, it is a long time no see. It's good to have you back. Lindsay Dinsdale's here. Evening all. Cyrus says it's been here. Oh, bless him. It's been here since 7:10. Oh, dear. That's what. Oh, Stella's here. Morning for all from Australia. Go back to bed. Hello from chilly, muddy Tennessee, says Kimberly. Kim Berlin. Pierre says I'm about 1.5 hours from Helsinki, so the girls give me a call next time and we shall meet. Okay. Oh, that's not too bad then. I will tell them. I will tell you. The Vanya's here. Hi, everyone. Sarah says, having a break from world domination. What? Me being away? Or you? Jenny Wadsworth's here. Good morning from Australia. Live in daylight for me. Yay. And Ali Jean's here. I changed my handle. Oh, yes. Oh, it's you. Ali Jean. That's like, it's confusing me. Okay, so today, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I've got no idea, but I am going to start talking about grinders. Okay, because when we started looking into grinders, I'll rephrase that. When we were watching other people looking into grinders, I was, because I'm a bit of a purist, always have been, haven't I, Gary? I'm a bit of a purist. I like my specific hand tools, and that's it. If you can trim with your hand tools, that's it. And I'll be honest, there isn't a hoof that I go to that I can't trim that I say, oh, it's too hard, when I've got nice, sharp tools. Honestly, there isn't. If you know properly how to trim the bar, and you've got to remember that bar is wall. It's an extension of the hoof wall. So it has an inner hoof wall, a white line, an inner hoof wall, an outer hoof wall. And the outer hoof wall, when you are putting a Mustang roll on, is the outer bit, which is easier to trim than the inner, because the inner hoof wall is the hardest part, but most flexible part. I digress. But if you know how to trim a bar from the inner part, which actually is its outer hoof wall, you trim it from that first and you come up, and then you're effectively making the bar smaller as you come up, and it's easier to trim. If you've got a sharp knife, you can do all of that. Now, I know lots of people talk about soaking feet. In our experience, soaking really doesn't make that much difference, because the hardest parts that you have to trim are, in fact, the bars and the walls. And if you are looking for that soaking to lift up a bit of sole, it's not likely to do that in 10 minutes. And compaction, and where do we see compaction most? At the back of the foot, is really is not going to be lifted. That's something you're going to have to file through anyway. So I digress. So when all this started going on about grinders, etc., I said to Gary, we should get some of the long neck grinders so that we can check to see what they're like, which we have done. We have used the Hoof Boss and we've used the Proxon, which we've told you about, that we looked into. In terms of trimming the foot, they are no faster than using hand tools when you know how to use hand tools. In fact, hand tools are much quicker. I appreciate the fact that there are people out there that struggle with hand tools. But honestly, I have to say that looking a little bit more into it and talking to people who are more experts at grinders than I am, and I'm not talking, because you've got to remember, these grinders were not created for hooves. They were created for doing woodwork and dealing with objects that were held tightly in a vise so they don't move, not to be used on an animal that is moving its leg about, who can move into you, can lean into you, can run away from you quickly, can jolt quickly, all of those things that we know horses do. And when I was using the Proxon, at one point I caught my thumb slightly, and I had gloves on, and it made a real mess of my glove and nearly made a mess of my thumb. Now, they do say apparently that grinders in the industry, you're not meant to use gloves with them, because if you catch your glove on it and it doesn't give, it will literally rip the glove and your finger off. Now, I'm not saying that the long neck grinders are going to be exactly like the big grinders, of course, but the discs that you use, and they come with, the Hoof Boss comes with various discs. It comes with one that is a chainsaw disc. And honestly, don't ever use that. Like, don't ever use that on your horse's feet, because we have trialed that and you can go straight through your horse's foot with that. And although you're using the other discs that are more like sanders, but they've got like carbide in them or something.
They're very coarse.
They're incredible. They're hard. They're coarse. It's not like sandpaper. They've got an edge. And so you might be doing that across here, but it's also got an edge to it, which is spinning at an incredible speed. And if that catches you, it's pretty bad. If that catches your horse, and particularly if it catches the horse somewhere at the back of the foot, and particularly around the back of the foot where the DDFT is, or anywhere, if a hair, if their tail is hanging down and you just absent-mindedly go like this and it grabs the hair, in which it will, and then it flings out of your hand, remember, the Hoof Boss, when you let go, will stop, but the Proxon won't, because that's just, you turn that right on. So I feel that because there's been a sort of big kick on about chat about grinders, I think it's important to note that even in experienced hands, any grinder can cause serious harm. And I think, having used them now myself, that it's not something that we would endorse, I have to say. So I can't stop and will not. It's not up to me whether you go out and you use grinders. It's entirely up to you. But what I can say is that these tools can cause serious harm if you are not careful. And you could be careful 999 times until the one time that you're not, until the one time something happens. If something happens and a horse goes to spook or into you or away from you, or as these things happen all the time, and I've got to quickly get out of the way, when I've got hand tools, they just fall on the floor. or they go with me. It's not the same when you've got grinders in your hands. So they are serious tools, and in the industry, and I'm not going to share links with you, but if you go onto YouTube and look up the damage that grinders can do, they will give you nightmares, frankly. They were never designed to go onto animals. They were designed to go onto things that, like wood, etc., that was held tightly in a vice, not something that's moving with pumping blood. I don't want the Phoenix group to be associated with talking about endorsing grinders. I just don't, guys, because there are so many horrible things that could go wrong. So if you go and get it, if you go and get one, it's entirely up to you. But I think, having now used them, that the only benefit I found of grinders, the only benefit was the fact that it used less energy. But to be honest, if you take your time with your horses, you should be able to get through with hand tools. And if you've got a horse that doesn't stand nicely, therefore it takes more energy to trim, what should you be doing there? Either using a grinder, or should you be taking your time to get the horse to stand more nicely so that you can trim them? Do you have anything to add to that, Garry?
Yes, well, you talked about the safety aspects of the grinder. I want to talk about the aesthetics of the grinder. So when we're actually, we have prided ourselves on getting the hoof balanced and back to nature, and mimicking that, don't like the word mimicking, but you know what I mean, mimicking that natural wear pattern and those pillars of support. In the short amount of time that we have been playing and seeing people use these grinders, particularly where compaction is concerned, I have a theory, and it is very much a theory, that because these grinders are spinning at such a high speed, I actually think that they polish the hoof somewhat.
They do.
And because of that heat transfer to the foot, which is, let's face it, unnatural, it wouldn't happen to the foot, would it? I think it actually creates a chemical imbalance within the foot, which actually encourages compaction. Obviously, that's a big thing for me to say, but that's what I see. I see a very polished surface, and it doesn't look like a foot that I'm used to trimming when I'm using abrasive tools that are basically mimicking wear, sand, stone. Yes, we're using a bit of metal on a rasp, but it's not the same as something spinning at high speed, creating heat. So that's one observation that I've made. And two, particularly because many people struggle with the bars. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why they are gaining in their popularity, is I'm actually seeing that the bars aren't actually trimmed correctly, because you cannot get in to the collateral grooves where you need to get with a grinder. So there's several things that are going on here. We in the Phoenix way are priding ourselves to get those feet as right as they can be. I'm sorry, even as seasoned professionals as Lindsay and I are, and our pros, what I'm seeing out there is we're not gaining the finesse.
No.
We're not gaining the finesse, and the finesse and the balance and the way that you find that feel of the foot is being lost.
And visually, there's a visual element to trimming feet. And one of the things that Garry and I have noticed immediately with them is because they polish, as well as obviously they remove material, but they polish it. The sole, the end of the tubules, they just become, it looks different, and you can't read the sole as easily. You really can't. When you're using hand tools and you're using knives, you can read where you need to be. When a foot has been dealt with a hoof grinder and you come back to it, you pick it up and go, ooh, where's the end? I'll tell you what it does. So where the bars, where you can end up getting overgrown bars and you can end up getting a mono bar, it polishes it down so that that extra bar material compacts into the sole and you can't see where the edge of it is anymore. No. Now, it's taken us a little bit of time. We did say that we were going to test these out, and we have tested both the Hoof Pulse and the Proxon out. There's not really much difference between them, other than the fact that Proxon doesn't have a cable. And a lot of people have been talking about taking the guards off. Well, they're on there for a reason. Now, we're not going to say, I don't know whether these discs are likely to break, but they can. And because of the rotation, and I'm no expert in this, but because of the rotation, having talked to people who are more expert at this, and you can go and look this up, depending on where on the clock that grinder grabs something, and it could be anything that it grabs. It could just be the end of your sleeve just dangling down that you're holding here, and you accidentally just go boom, and it just takes it. Where it grabs it, because it's a long arm, it's not easy to hold, and it can fly. And if it did that, especially the Proxon, that is doesn't have a right, that's it, as soon as I let go it stops working. It's not the case. If that flings off, not only could it, depending on where it is in that, where it grabs on that clock, it will either run towards you or it will go towards the horse, and that's not good. The damage that those things can do to a flesh isn't a slice, it's a mash. The person I was talking to said, all you have to do is go and get yourself a piece of meat and put it on it. It just completely mashes it. You can't heal something like that. And especially if it goes through a tendon, they can go deep quite quickly. I don't think personally, as far as we're concerned, we would rather use hand tools. That's how we feel about it.
I think also what we were trying to do, and I think this is worth saying. We have a lot of people around the world that struggle with hoof care. Okay, so that is the reality. So what we were looking at is to see if we can find something that helps. That's what that was our main driving force. We've been out there using hand tools forever, and we never even needed them. So we were doing that. This is not something that we took on lightly, but having the Phoenix way and being progressive, we wanted to not be the purists that we've always said that we would be. We wanted to trial them. We wanted to see the pros and the cons, and you've seen us. using them, sharing our initial experiences, but now reality has hit home. The risk for that perfect foot that your horse deserves, and for the safety of you and your horse, we are not endorsing grinders any further. It was part of a journey. It was part of a journey. And I'm sure as the years go on, there will be many more journeys to be had too. But being upfront, honest, our intentions were completely and totally honourable to help you as always, but reality has hit home.
It is, and like Garry said, we had to try
no more grinding talk. No more grinding talk.
No more grinding talk. And if grinding talk appears in the Phoenix group, we will remove it.
Yeah,
it's just so you know. Okay. It's not something that we can get behind. There are too many things that can go wrong. And I don't like what it does to the bottom of the foot.
No, I don't either.
So it for all those reasons,
it doesn't look right. We're trying to teach you and help you to read the foot. Using a grinder switches a lot of that off.
Yeah. Loads of people making lots of things they're saying. I'm just going. Ali's saying, I'm just guessing, assuming that the polishing effect can disguise flake. Exactly that. 100%. I had an HCP ruin my Lily's hooves with the grinder. She used a very fine sanding disc and it changed the hooves drastically in a very bad way. It was actually kind of burning the hoof due to the heat. There's a heat transfer as well, and some I would assume most horses wouldn't like it. I've seen people go too far with the grinder so that the collateral grooves disappear. I just found it took too long. It takes ages. It's not quick. I'm faster and more precise with my tools, says Fiona Francis. Yeah, okay. Equine teeth floating by hand. It's much safer, etc., etc. Lee says, dead right, Garry. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Lee says, brilliant, guys. I think you've just saved a lot of horses' lives and a lot of trimmers' owners' limbs. Okay, serious stuff. When we're messing around with animals that are moving all the time, horses, and we're using these things, yeah, that's it. No more grinder talk. That's it. We're done with it. I've played. Garry's played, and we're not going to use them again. We do not endorse them. Full stop. That's it. Great call, guys. Good old-fashioned tools and skill building. Yeah. My horse would be in the next county if I even tried a grinder. That is true. Right, for some, many. Right, okay. What else can we talk about this evening, Garry?
Well, we've got about 20. We didn't talk about our amazing trip to the UK when we went to Bethan's and we caught up with Bex. We never talked about that. We've never talked about that on a live. So how about we give a big shout out to Bex Nairn and Bethan Thornycroft at Gawsworth Track Livery for hosting an awesome, sounds gross, but it's so educational, horse dissection. Whole horse dissection. It was good. And our second one, but I have to say, this one was a shocker.
Yeah, this poor horse, they reckoned was
this one was a shocker.
They think he must have been around about mid-20s. It was a he. And gosh,
I'm just getting a drink.
It's all right. He had so many things wrong with him from outside in. His guts his intestines were blackened in places. indicating that there had been serious colic type pathology. He had his intestines were stuck by fibrous tissue to places they shouldn't have been, and his bladder wasn't in the right place, and his bladder was full of a urolith, which was 2.6 kilos heavy, and it felt like it was hard, but you could get bits off, and it just felt like clay, because it was mineral deposits, of course. Felt like clay. It was awful. God, and God knows how. Imagine when you've got a full bladder and you need to go for a pee. You can really feel it. You can imagine having that bladder distended fully like that all the time. I mean, it must have been awful. He had bone chips in joints. He had arthritis in joints.
There was calcium deposits everywhere, wasn't there?
Yeah. In where the synovial fluid is, he had synovitis. He had synovitis. Is that right? Am I saying the right word there? I feel like I'm not saying the right word. He had issues. No, I think that's sinuses. But he had issues that were throughout his entire body, which Bex discovered and uncovered as she went through it. Because the difference, I suppose, about going to, I don't know, because I've never been to other horse dissections, but I would assume that when people are doing horse dissections to learn about the body, they kind of go through it going, this is where this is, and this is where this is, and sort of labeling things. It's not what Bex does. It's not what we do. When I do a lower limb dissection, I'm talking to you about what's in there, but I'm also talking to you about what we find and the causes of that, the common causes of the things that we find. And she does the same, Bex. So it's a bit like going on a detective trail as you go through, because usually we don't have any history of these animals when we do our lower limb dissections, and when Bex does her dissections, you don't really have any history. So it's going through you're being a detective. And it was quite sad. It's so sad. And, you know, all of us that were watching it were all saying, my God, this is domestic living for you. And I think the thing that really hit home for me was that this horse had 4 shoes on, all 4 feet, and every shoe had road nails in them, both sides. And that really indicates that this horse was being ridden, probably up to the bitter end. The owner probably loved this horse to pieces, but I can guarantee it lived such a traditional life. That life had never suited its body, and it doesn't suit bodies, our equines. They need to be freely moving at all times. He probably spent a great deal of his time in stables. Now, I can't say for sure that that's what happened, but when you look at the shoes, and you can imagine that this horse didn't live a more natural life, which is what we're always trying to do. And people say to us, especially recently, when we've been talking about our discoveries that we are making and the research that we're doing, and we're finding, when we're talking about that word laminitis, that word that's not fit for purpose anymore, it's just willy-nilly used for everything, like the word colic is used for something that is causing pain in the horse's gut system. The word laminitis talks about inflamed laminae, but there's never been a situation where that has actually properly been confirmed. What they're talking about is they're actually talking about rotation, separation. That's what they were trying to study. And of course, never found it because they never caused it. Well, and if they did find stretch in the laminae, they never looked at the hoof histories. So what we're doing is we're finding that that word laminitis is just not fit for purpose at all. And I think that when we talk about diet, management, trimming, the three parts of the triangle, as it were, that we talk about, it's so very, very important that we keep our horses moving. We encourage movement. They have varied surfaces to walk on. They eat a high fiber, natural fiber diet. And the best way that you can do that is on a track, without a shadow of a doubt, because we don't want to see horses getting fat. And there are loads of horses out there that are actually top horses. Horses like Vallegro, for instance, and Uti that just died. Well, they put them to sleep together, didn't they, apparently?
Yeah.
Because they were stable mates, as they called them, all their lives. But when I saw a more recent photograph of Vallegro, which I think Charlotte Dujardin called Blueberry, he had a cresty neck. We don't want to see horses with cresty necks. We don't want to see horses overweight. We don't want to see horses that are clearly not fit. We want to see them fitter. And track systems do that. Does that mean that horses can't go out on grass? Well, it's entirely up to you. But horses that live on grass, I tell you, will get, most horses, if they live on enough grass, will get fat. Not all, but most. Because they just don't move enough. You need them to move more. Now, if you've got acres and acres and acres and acres, that might be a different thing. However, you can have acres and acres and the horses still get overweight. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage more movement, more varied surfaces, making it easier for the trimmer. So if that horse is moving around on a track that's got varied surfaces, when you come to trim those horses' feet, they remain balanced for longer. I mean, that's a win-win, right? It means that it's less chance your hoof care professional's going to cause balance problems, and your horse is going to keep their feet in balance for longer. So, yeah. But it was really interesting that at this dissection, which was and always is, as far as I'm aware, full of people who are main people that go to these dissections are body workers, people who are interested in how the body works and the musculoskeletal system. Very rarely, in fact, the two dissections that we went to, does anybody discuss the feet. And it's really sad. Bex took the legs off because she basically disassembles the whole body, which is crazy to watch. It is mind-blowing.
So interesting.
It is really, and she's so knowledgeable because she's done it. So I think this was her 117th, something like that.
No, it was 167.
Oh, 167. Oh my God.
It was a number 167.
It is fascinating. But when she took the legs off, Bethan went off with one of them and trimmed a front foot, of which she put photographs on her Facebook page of before and afters. And I was having a conversation with somebody that was there. I didn't know this person, but they were a vet physio. And I was just having a general conversation, and I asked this lady, and I said to her, so what do you think of the feet then? And I mean, it was obvious who we were because we had it written on our, oh, hello. We had it written, it's working. Yes. Oh, look at that. Sorry, I digress. I digress. And I said to her, I was kind of putting her in a position deliberately because I wanted to hear what she was going to say. And I said, what did you think of the feet then? And she said, well, there were some imbalances or the feet might not have been quite balanced. I said, oh, in what way? And immediately she went, oh, mediolaterally. Now, at no point did she or anybody at that workshop pick up a hoof and go and look down it to look at balance. You can't see if something is mediolaterally imbalanced, especially if the horse is lying on its side, which of course it was, and not standing up. You have to look underneath and you have to look at the balance, right? You have to look at it a certain way. Anyway, she didn't. So she said, oh, I mediolaterally. It's like buzzword bingo. It's just something that came out to make it sound like you know what you're talking about. It's true though, isn't it, Gary?
It is.
And I went, oh. I said, anything else? She went, no. A bit offish in a way. And thinking, she was probably thinking, oh shit, I'm being tested. And rightly so.
You put her under the cosh.
I did. And then I said, well, would you be surprised if I told you that horse's feet were also dorsopalmally imbalanced? And in the front feet, they were, P3 was positive, and in the hind feet, P3 was negative. And she just looked at me. Now, we found arthritic changes in that horse.
All the way around.
Of course, it got to the age of 25 and it had shocking feet. But to many people, they would think those feet probably looked okay. We could tell they weren't. Horrible imbalances. Now, when we talked to Bex about it, she always said, well, what comes first? Well, we all both say, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? The bad feet causing the bad body, or the bad body causing the bad feet? In reality, it'll be a cyclical spiral thing that goes on, that almost 100% what's going to come before bad body is bad feet, because a horse can get bad feet really, really quickly. And then they get a bad body, and then they get more bad feet and bad body and bad. We can take horses who have had awful things go on and grow really very nice balanced feet. And when those horses are allowed to move a lot, that helps their body a lot, but it's not going to take arthritic changes away. Of course it's not. And I think that we are now moving into an era where we're talking about looking after horses, where we absolutely have got to stop giving over the feet problem to someone else. Because not one person in that workshop, not one, other than our little group of a third of that workshop, maybe even almost coming up to a half, were made up of our students that went, and our pros. And of course, they spoke about the feet. But we have body workers, vet physios, people that are doing all these different techniques on the body, and they don't talk about the feet really, because they don't know what they're talking about. And then you talk to somebody who is a vet physio, who has got all the lingo and really didn't have a clue what she was talking about. Now, can you imagine if I wasn't a hoof care professional who knew an awful lot about feet, and I was an owner, and that vet physio said to that owner, oh, your horse has got mediolateral imbalance, without even picking it up and having a look? She just kind of took it out of midair, really, because it sounded quite good. God knows what she was looking at. It's very, very, very worrying. That I am even amazed that horses have got this far, really. Well, they aren't, are they? They're dropping down like lame, going lame like nobody's business. It's a horrible epidemic. It was at Bex's clinic in Ireland we went to, and at this clinic we even had a vet in Ireland, and we had a vet in this one too. We had a vet from Germany. And when Bethan was in the she took herself away to do the trim, and I was with her, and we were chatting about it. The German vet came in to discuss what was going on, and she didn't. She's a lovely lady, but she knew very little about the feet, and yet she was clearly there for equine. And so Bethan disappeared with her leg, and I was left chatting with a couple of our pros. I was left chatting to the German vet, and asking her a few questions about it. So I dragged in a hind leg, which had an NPA. And I showed her this hind leg. I mean, lovely lady. Lovely lady. I mean, we really got her thinking. I showed her this hind leg, and I said, tell me something about that leg then. Tell me something about the foot. She didn't pick up that it was an NPA, but she picked up that the front of the foot was being trimmed like this, because it's, when people think that they're bringing that toe back, they think they're making all the difference. But on an NPA, the difference needs to be vertical depth that you're making a change to, not length. So when people talk about a long toe, they're not really quite sure what they're talking about. They think they mean that, but they really should be thinking more about that. That's the issue that we're dealing with P3. So, and you can of course have that and that and that and that. It's anyway. So she was sort of hyper focused on the fact that the front of the toe had been removed. I don't think I've got any photos, sorry. And she said, but I don't know what that white is here. She could see it had been bull-nosed. This is a hind foot, so remember it has an NPA. So there was too much material underneath the toe. So if you can imagine, P3 should be sat neutral, ground parallel. If you have too much, this is the heel. If you have, my face is in the way. Let's put it there. If you have too much under the heel, it goes like that, doesn't it? It becomes positive. Let's go back to neutral. If you have too much under the toe, it's going to become negative. And our job is to find that sweet spot of neutrality and keep it there. So it was bull-nosed because it was too long vertically. So it was in this situation and it had gone too much like that. So vertically there was too much toe. And inevitably, therefore, there's going to be a little bit too much going forward too. So the farrier is a very common thing, and it was a farrier, obviously, because the horse was being shod, had been trimming this foot back like this the whole time. So it was kept bull-nosing. But you could see right through to the inner hoof wall, so the waterline. And she said, but I don't know, because it was a dark hoof, I don't know what that white is. And I still find it stunning that equine vets are offering their opinions on what is going on in the foot, and yet they really can't read it. Now, I'm not saying that's all of them, but I'm saying it's the majority. Now, I'm sorry to say, but it is the majority. So I said, well, that's the inner hoof wall that you're looking at, because the farrier has rasped away the outer hoof wall. Oh, she said. Okay. I then put the foot down and I showed her a post I put up on the HM and in the Phoenix group of 4 X-rays of one horse taken at the same time. His 2 fronts and his 2 hinds, and not one foot was balanced. The left hind was the best foot out of the bunch of 4. And that is a very common problem. All 4 feet doing slightly different things. The fronts were a variant of the front right had osteonecrosis and was hyperpositive and had lost vertical depth. The front left was actually NPA. The right hind was NPA, slightly different, and the left hind was more normal. And I showed those to her, and actually she picked up the 2 NPAs. Now, this is the irony of it. She picked up the 2 NPAs and went, well, I can see that these 2 are negative. And I said, very good. And then by then we'd had quite a bit of discussion. So I said, okay, fine. Then we talked about how you would correct that. So she wasn't sure. So we discussed that. And then I said, okay, now what about the right 4? And she laughed a little bit because she knew what she was about to say was going to mean that I was going to say something. And she said, well, that's laminitic. So she didn't say, well, that one's negative and that one's positive. She went, well, that one's laminitic. And I said, okay, go on. She said, I can see it's had some bone loss. And I said, right. And we discussed why that was. And her response to that was, it was sinking in the hoof capsule. She believed it was sinking down. And I said, hang on a minute. Can you just compare the left fore with the right fore? Do the capsules look the same size? Well, no, she said, because the right fore's got a longer toe. And I said, ignore the toe, because that's what she wanted to obsess about all the time. She wanted to obsess about the toe. I said, ignore the toe for a moment. Just tell me the size of the hoof capsules. Are they the same? No, she said. I said, correct. Which one is shorter? She said, the right fore. I said, so why are you saying that P3 sunk through the foot? It's not gone anywhere, has it? It's just the capsule's brought up to it because it also has osteonecrosis. Interesting, she said. But now what do we do about the toe? You've got to take it off because of the lever forces. I mean, it is like a bit like buzzword bingo. They get them all in there. And they've been ingrained. It's been ingrained. Keep saying the same thing over and over again. You know, definition of insanity, like Einstein said, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's not working. And the reason it isn't working, dealing with these laminitics, is because the majority of people, and she would have been quite a progressive vet because she's come over to this dissection, spent the time, the money, the effort to come along and learn, but really had absolutely no clue about what was going on with the feet or how to deal with them. And it was just this toe chopping. You've got to remove the toe. And I said to her, if you remove that toe, and we talked about it, if you remove that toe, where is that horse going to be walking on? And she went, the sole? I said, yes. Where? Point to me where? Right. Underneath there. I said, do you think that's a good idea for the horse that's already got? No. I said, how are we going to make that P3? How are we going to bring it from that to that? And she went, well, it's laminitic. It's laminae have torn and it's rotating. I said, it isn't. Oh, it's not rotating in the capsule. I said, what should we do? I tell you, if I teach children this or kids this, instantly they've got it. Adults, especially adults that have been in the equine world for a long time, they can't let it go. So I go, all you have to do is bring the heel down, right? Yeah, but you can't do that all at once. I said, why? Well, because of the tendons. So what about the tendons? Well, it's going to cause problems. I said, don't you think this problem's already been caused by the fact that P3 has already lost a significant amount of its tip? Yes. I said, how are you going to keep on top of those heels now that you've removed the toe? Because the growth rates are now going to be like that. It was hard, bloody work, actually. And I was in there for...
You can't do a 3-day workshop in an hour.
Yeah, I must have been in there 3. And Garry came in and I went, Garry, can you take that shoe off for me? And he went, yeah. As he was taking the shoe off, he was explaining what he was doing to her. We were having a little tiny mini thing.
We had a mini workshop. She was a lovely lady.
Oh, she was lovely.
It was great. And it was great that she was interested as well, not just paying lip service. It was great that she was genuinely interested. But it is shocking that we've got these people that we put up on a pedestal, and perhaps we've created the problem by putting them up on a pedestal, because guess what? We're all made of the same stuff.
I know. I mean, come on, we've got to stop that.
We've got to stop that. We're all made of the same stuff.
I think there's a lot of fear around foot pathology because people just don't really know what's going on.
No, they don't understand.
And they certainly don't want to blame their pet farrier or the trimmer that they like or the farrier that they like, and neither does an owner. And
the thing is, it affects
maybe
relationships, doesn't it? It affects relationships, and then dealing with the animals and the horses is easy. Dealing with the human side of things is what is a massive challenge.
Oh, it's massive.
Massive.
It's a massive challenge.
We shouldn't be hoof care providers. We should be psychologists.
And everything we saw there at Beck's is what Beck's amazing clinic, and everything that we saw at the last one in Ireland about all these hoof care, all the vets and the body workers not wanting to go, and even Beck's herself admitted that she doesn't really talk much about what happens below the stifle and the elbow. You know, she knows like this the muscles, and she takes the muscles out, and that's quite cool. And then she sort of pulls them and watches the limb articulate. That's as far as it goes. Garry and Asher took the hoof capsule off, which was a trial in itself, because it always is, and especially when people are watching, and they got the sole off and they got the hoof capsule off. But, you know, there weren't enough people going, oh, my God, wow, that's incredible. They were kind of like, oh, yeah. Oh. It's so hard. Honestly, it's so hard. Shocking. If you have not got balanced feet, I tell you, these horses put up with so much. They really, really do. Specialist animals with specialist feet being dealt a really awful card, I have to tell you. Karen says, I was told by a vet that they may only get 3 hours total study on the hoof and the same on the teeth. Comforting, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's true.
We've heard that
that's
a
true.
lot. Heard that
well, Viviane Ulrich told us she got 120 minutes. She got 2 hours on the hoof. And everything, she wouldn't let any equine vet near her horse's feet because she knows more about that than they do. And she's a vet. Tammy says, got me fired as a client by proving with x-rays my pony was going backwards with the farrier care. Don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it.
The proof is in the hoof.
They don't like me or Garry, or mainly me, because we talk about, you got to stop doing this. You've got to stop chopping the toe off. You've got to understand balance more. You've got to stop causing these problems. They go, you're so awful, you people. You shouldn't blame professionals. What? These are the same people who tell me that they love their horses. I'm not trying to blame anybody specifically. I am just telling you that the equine world is hopeless when it comes to feet. Absolutely, shockingly hopeless.
I was doing some, as I do most days, assignments and assessments. And I thought that this would be a lovely comment to end on once we've gone through some of the notes. And the assignment was to go out and find some pictures of feet and to fully assess them with their current teachings from the 2-year training program. I think they're about 18 months in. And this lovely student, love her to bits, she said, well, I decided to look on the internet. And this is what she says. I was actually really quite shocked because I knew more than I thought I did. Also, most examples of various conditions are not what they think they are. The searches illustrate that Homo sapiens is failing equus caballus badly. And I thought that sums it up completely.
Yeah.
Sums it up, and so eloquently put. And this assignment is not an easy one, because we send them out to search for stuff that's not very nice. And I have to say, it's so bloody easy. In 2025, it shouldn't be easy. We got to make the change.
And put laminitis, put the word laminitis in Google and then click on images.
Oh, yeah.
You go find me a normal looking foot. And you know, it's got the because gaslighting is what it is, whether they realize they're doing it or not. They are basically saying what you're seeing with your eyes is not what's really happening. Yeah. In other words, you can see a distorted foot. I didn't do that. That mythical disease inside that horse's body did that. It raised the heels and it chopped off the toes. Don't you believe me? Don't believe me, or your lying eyes, is basically how that goes. And the equine world has been so good at doing it. It has gone and removed the one person making the biggest difference to that horse's feet than any diet can. And they have completely removed that person from the equation. That the responsibility, it's gone. Now we hear about amazing. Oh, Farry was amazing. Farry was this, Farry was that. We never hear about, oh my God, that was awful. That terrible trimming. You do when you're in the industry, because they all talk about each other. No, Farry is all lumped together and said, you barefoot trimmers, you're and barefoot trimmers lumped together and say, oh, you Farry shouldn't be doing that. And then they all lump together against me. But actually, when you're in the industry and you're passing from client to client, and especially if you're in an area and you get to know the various people and trimmers, they're talking behind, stabbing people in the back all the time, talking behind their backs all the time. Oh, well, I wouldn't have done it like that. I'd have wedged it up. Well, I wouldn't have done it like that. I'd have chopped the toe off a bit more. I wouldn't have done it like that. It's a mess. It's a mess. And well, we just have to keep going. But I feel sometimes that we're just bashing our head against a brick wall. Tammy says, my pony is more sound than he's ever been in a long time by trimming him myself. Well done, Tammy.
Well done, Tammy.
Marshall says, I'm glad you were able to share the truth with the German vet. Perhaps you were able to create some doubt and questioning in her. The ignorance is universal. Yeah, and people don't like the word ignorance because they think that we're saying, oh, you ignorant person. But it is ignorance. It is ignorance. And she was very sweet when she left, actually. She came back in and came over to me and said, thank you, and shook my hand and said, thank you very much. It was interesting. And like you say, if that just makes her think, next time she looks at an x-ray with P3 like that, she might think, are those heels unnaturally high?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She will now. She won't be able to not.
No. Because think about it. You've got two front feet. One's more positive than the other. Just get a pencil and draw around, get the print out of the x-ray and draw around it. And then draw around the other one. Cut them out. You could do a cut and stick, couldn't you? Cut them out. Once you've drawn around them, cut them out. And then put them next to you. Put them on top of each other if you can't use Canva. And
use
then
tracing paper.
Yeah, use tracing paper. And then cut them out. And then put one on top of the other and then go, holy shit, they're not the same. And actually, the one that's got more positive P3's got higher heels. I mean, it's obvious.
And possibly less toe.
Oh. Carrie says, as an owner, I have a responsibility to advocate for my horses by learning. And with learning comes the ability to discern how my horse is actually doing, even if it's hard to know. Absolutely. We are dragging owners kicking and screaming to the feet. And then you, my lovely friends, are going to teach the professionals.
Yes.
Because we can't get round and teach professionals. We won't learn. So you have to do it first.
what it'll be supply and demand. That's what it'll be, is the owners. I need somebody that is on board, and people will start to phone up their vets and say, right, do you know what's going on with the feet? Or I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I need you for gelding or something like that. But please, can we have an understanding that we're not going to discuss feet? And then even that conversation, we are not going to discuss feet. We'll make them discuss feet. Because they'll want to know, which will make them inquisitive as to why we're not talking about feet. And then you have to stick to your guns. But owners, on the whole, will make the change.
Oh, you will.
The owners will make the change. And there are, and I have to say, there is a handful of pros out there that have already seen that change, and we must give them a shout out too.
Absolutely.
We've had some farriers come on our workshops, and they've made a change, and they've stayed good friends, and we've got vets that are on board with us now. But I have to say that it's still a handful. We want it to be more. We want it to be more. They need multiplying, these people.
And they do. And there's something else that I think is important to say, is that when people get into, when a horse has been going bad for a long time, P3s have been all over the place, all over the place. And then we come along to rehab these feet, and we show you the truth by letting that lamella wedge come to the point where it's actually supporting, and they think that it's all too long, and yet you x-ray inside and P3's in a lovely position, but we've got a wedge there and the horse is getting more and more comfortable. Rehab isn't pretty, but then neither was getting them to that point where they needed rehab through constant footiness, lameness, navicular diagnoses, laminitis bouts, they'll say, osteonecrosis, arthritis, you name it, they've had it. It's not been pretty, the journey to finding us. And then when they do find us and we start to rehab, people have this thing where they think that 20 years of a horse's life of having crap feet are going to turn around in 2 months. That doesn't happen.
Or even less.
Or even less. Some people think that after the first trim, that when they call up their HCP, said, "Oh, it's not doing so well. I thought he was going to do better." Come on, guys. And so another problem that we have with other professionals is that when we step in to start rehabbing these horses' feet, what we're doing is heading towards a better result, a sounder result. And if you stick with it and work with it, and if we feel that there hasn't been too much osteonecrosis, then the chances are we are going to get to a better prognosis. But what happens is when things aren't going right and linearly, sounder, what happens is they get sound, dip, and then they come up again. Oh, they dip. It just happens. But generally we're going off in that direction. People get upset and worried, and you see them writing up in the Phoenix group, and I get that and I understand it. But years these horses have been coping with these problems, and they've just been coping until the point they can't cope with it anymore, and you spot it. We can't turn that round in 5 minutes. And unfortunately, one of the things I think that vets will take a long time to understand is the rehab process. We have to teach people the rehab process, because they will come along to a horse and see it maybe struggling a little bit at a stage, and it's only the early stages, not struggling any more than it ever had it before in the past, but suddenly now, because we're involved, it's struggling more. It isn't. It's just you know, and then they go, oh, well, no, you've got to chop the toes off. You've got to do this. You've got to do that to make it better. Wedge the heels up, etc. Blah, blah, blah. So we've got to not only teach them what pathologies are being caused by, we've also got to teach them about rehab. It's massive what our job is. Gosh, that sounded awful. Our job is massive. We cannot do this alone. I can't do it alone. Garry can't do it alone. Bethan can't do it alone. Our pros can't do it alone. So that is why the Phoenix Group is growing to become the most progressive change in equine care, the biggest paradigm shift that equine world has ever had. And it's right, you're right there in the middle of it, and it's growing. And you're in the thick of it, and we are all in the thick of it now. It's your own fault. You shouldn't have come in and joined. You shouldn't have been watching these YouTube videos. It's your own fault. You're part of it now. Can't turn back and leave us now. We all need you, and all together
you're stuck now because you can't know what you now know.
Yeah.
You may want to at times. You may want to at times, but you can't unknow.
You can't unknow now.
No, you can't.
Jacqueline says, hi, everyone. Remember when smoking was not only allowed in hospitals, GP surgeries and public areas, but promoted to improve health? Oh, yes.
Yeah. There are so many analogies, isn't there, that when you look back in history, when you think, oh, my God, this is so good. And then when you come back and you got 25, 30 years later and you think, uh-oh, we're at the uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Well, I don't think we're even at the uh-oh yet. I think we are, but they aren't.
Everybody else has got to catch up. We need them to catch up with the uh-oh.
Oh, God.
That realization needs to hit home.
Yeah. Anyway. Ali says, honoured to be here on the bumpy ride. We're honoured to have you too.
Well, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge, and it takes. Do we get it always right? No. It takes a certain mindset to be resilient and committed, and we try very hard. And yes.
Sarah says, do you think we will ever get to a point where we can hold a vet HM conference where people leave everything at the door and just listen and learn?
Yes, I have to think along those lines, Sarah. I'm going to blank Lindsay out now. I can't see you. I have to think that in my lifetime that will happen. I have to think that happens. I really do. I really do.
For me, I think that for me, it's the change will never come top down. The change will never, ever, ever come from vets, farriers and trimmers, ever. Some will make changes, some will understand more, some will start to get it, but they will be too fearful to run with it. The change will come from the owners, 100% grassroots. I just know I've been around this business for far, far, far too long.
If I've got a crystal ball, what will happen is that the owners will end up demanding for change. And then the vets and the farriers will then come to us, because most of them will not want to sit in a room and be taught with those owners. They would want it done behind a closed door. Very much so. And do you know what? If it gets us there, I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, we're here for the health of the horses. I really don't care how it looks, whether they're prepared to sit in a room with horse owners and be taught exactly the same as those horse owners or not. I don't care. I really don't care. As long as the change happens, whatever that looks like, I don't care. I don't care.
Cara says, if you really look and are open-minded, it's so obvious. The trim is common sense, physiologically and structurally. I'm learning constantly. Horses feel better quickly. They do. I am loving some comments that I'm reading recently on the public page, on the public HM page, where you've got people coming in saying, I'm a trimmer. I've been a trimmer for 25 years. I've tried everything that's going. I've tried every latest toe chopping, heel raising fad that there is out there. And I have to tell you, this might look odd to some when these horses' feet are recovering, but this is the safest and soundest that I've ever, or the soundest I've ever had with horses by doing this method. And it doesn't matter what we say, it's not a method, it's just following the horse's internal anatomy. People will call it a method. So, and that's brilliant listening to that. And even to the point where they're now starting to talk back at other professionals and say to them, yeah, I thought that too. I did that too. I thought this was odd. And I thought, no way, they're having a laugh, until I realized what they were talking about. And the thing is, people skim the surface and they won't go any further. They don't do the due diligence to go and actually look at what we're talking about. They don't go, what are they leaving that toe for? And what is that toe? Oh, it's too long. No, it's displaced. Actually, the hoof wall should be on the ground, but it's not because you've been chopping it off. Anyway, I'm not going into all of that because you've heard me say it a million times. I work with vets and they don't want to learn. Well, and I suppose in some respects they've done their learning, haven't they? They've been learned to death at school, and now they've gone out into the big wide world. Everybody's looking up to them. Sarah says, it would be amazing though if they stop blocking our rehabs. They don't have to like the look of it, but leave alone and watch the rehab complete. Too fearful, too scared that everybody's got an opinion as well. Everybody has to have an opinion on everything. Jacqueline says, it will happen. Get the insurance companies on board. They'll make it happen. The vets will have to change. Now, there is a truth.
There is a truth.
But right there is insurance.
Insurance will be a big one that could and has the potential to change. But it depends on who has the invested interests in that insurance company. All I'm going to say is the farrier industry is a multi-billion-pound industry. That's all I'm going to say.
And we know from experience back in the day, and this is got to be well over 10 years ago, well over 10 years ago, we used to be insured with a company. I shall not mention their name. We were insured with a company as trimmers, and this company also insured farriers. And when we had new people that we were training at the time trying to get insurance, suddenly this insurance company stopped insuring them, new trimmers. And somebody knew somebody who knew somebody
within the company.
Within the company. That's all I'm going to say.
Insider.
We had a bit of insider information. And what had happened is that the FRC had put pressure on this company and said, we are going to stop sending farriers to your doors to insure them if you carry on insuring barefoot trimmers. So they said, right, well, we're not going to insure. I mean, I don't think they wanted to, but then they said, right, we won't insure any more barefoot trimmers because obviously we don't want to lose our farrier clients, of which all of them are coming out of farrier school and being sent to this company. But we have to honour the barefoot trimmers that we do already have on our books. They couldn't sack us off, you see. However, we all ended up changing because we didn't trust them. Because we thought, if something goes wrong, are they going to stand by us? Probably not. The insurance world, oh, you're right, Jacqueline.
It would make a big difference.
It is going to make a big difference. And they are going to look at, because all they want to do is save their money, right? They do not want to be paying out for something that actually was caused by a human being. What are you talking about? I thought they would tell me it was just because he ate too much grass. Yeah. But then, like Garry said, then you've got to see who's
it becomes politics. Then it becomes politics and money.
Who's
got the invested in? And who's the investors? Who are the people that have got the biggest clout, and who's going to make the most money? That's really what's going to happen. And that sounds all conspiracy theorist, I know, but unfortunately, it's the way the world works. So we're going to go right the way back. Horse owners, you're going to change the world.
Love you. Ali says, empowering the owners. Thank you. We are a tribe of outsiders, finally found our place. Absolutely, Pia. Right, we're going to leave you to it. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you on Friday, I think, this week, because we're doing this on Wednesday. So we'll see you Friday. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. We love you all. Keep changing the world. You can do it.
Be good.
Bye, Phoenix Warriors. See you Friday. Bye.